Hello, and welcome to The Potential State. My name is Dr. Assael Romanelli, and today I want to talk about the power of also to open your mind and your relationships. So, in the improv world, we know that every good scene is co-created. Both actors or actresses are playing off each other, what is called the yes and concept. And in psychotherapy research, we know that the best interactions, the best therapeutic relationships are that are full of give and take, that there's mutual recognition, that I recognize that the other is a subject and I am a subject, and together we are co-creating, we are bouncing off ideas, and we create what is called the third, the analytical third or the relational third. That thirdness that doesn't belong to not you or me, it's the co-created interaction that none of us could have constructed alone. Also in improv, that's the magic of improvisation, right? There's a scene that's just born out of both of us, this conversation, the scene, and suddenly it's not yours, it's not mine, it's bigger than the both of us, but it needed to have both of us in order to happen. So there's a balance of give and take, of mutual recognition, of what in couples therapy we call accepting influence. That's what the Gottmans in their research have discovered that is the most important component that differentiates couples that are happy and couples that are not happy, is how much can they accept influence from each other, how much are they open. And the question is, how do we do that in relationships? How do we do that in our day-to-day interactions when we want to express our opinions clearly, and yet we also want to be open to input? Or not always, but when we want, in those intimate relationships where we do want, how do we do that? So I have a very practical tip. You add the word also. I am also angry at you. I am also afraid of doing this lecture tomorrow. I'm also a little bit nervous that this light is going to die on me again, like it usually does in previous episodes. Or I sometimes feel like you're not listening to me, instead of saying you never listen to me, or you never listen, or you don't listen to me. Okay, so I'm adding that sometimes, and I'm adding that also. And the second I added also, a few things happen. The first thing that happens, it softens my position. So for instance, I have a friend and he said something really good that happened to me, and I said, oh, I'm also jealous of you. I'm also jealous of you. So I'm not just jealous, I'm also jealous, which means I have more spaces, that there's another thing I can go. If I'm also jealous, then there's a part of me that's also happy for you. And there's a part of me that's also excited for him. So I'm feeling a few separate things, a few different things, and it's actually allowing myself to expand this specific casting I was about to put myself in, as the forgiving friend, as the jealous friend, as the happy friend. I'm a few different things. And if I'm softening my casting of my role in this interaction, then I'm also softening your casting. So you can move between feeling really seen to feeling a little bit that you're being in competition. You can feel more than one feeling, which means we have more flexibility, more fluidity. In relational psychotherapy, we call these self-states. So there's different parts of me. There's the jealous Assael, there's the happy Assael, there's the childish Assael, there's the mature Assael, there's the spiritual Assael. And relational psychotherapy will say mental health is having the flexibility and access to different self-states. So the second I'm adding in also, I'm actually saying, first of all, to myself and to my unconscious and to the person on the other side of this conversation, there's a few different things happening for me. And by naming it for myself, I'm reminding myself that I'm more than one thing. I'm not just my anger. I'm not just my jealousy. I'm not just my happiness. I'm a few different things. And being able to hold a few different self-states in my mind actually helps me regulate and helps me remind me that there's a bigger part of me, the meta, that in internal family systems we call it the meta, right? The big me. That's kind of looking at all these small parts, and there's a few separate ones of me, so I don't get stuck in one rigid feeling or state or energy. And so when you do these, when you add these also and these sometimes, it also prevents you from going too extreme, for getting on your high horse and not knowing how to get down. I always want you to be happy. Really? Always want you to be happy? But we already discussed that you always hurt the ones you love. Schnarch calls it the normal marital sadism. So we know that. So instead of getting stuck in these extreme positions, which later you don't know how to come down from, you're just going to say, I sometimes want you to be happy. Or I sometimes want to kill you. Sometimes, but sometimes I don't. So this sometimes helps me kind of be flexible, helps the maintain movement. And the second I'm saying I'm also happy for you, I'm introducing doubt, I'm introducing openness. I'm introducing a shadow part of myself. So if I'm saying something really nice, if I add an also, I can also add the kind of negative thing, the shadow or what some people would perceive as negative. So I'm also happy for him. I'm also so jealous. I also want to write a book, right? So I just got a message that my friend just published his book, and I'm also happy for him, and I'm also a little bit jealous. So that also allows me to bring in the shadow, which means I can tell him in the same message, I'm also happy and I'm also shadow, which means I'm bringing more of my parts, and I'm inviting him to see more parts of me, and then he can bring more parts of himself. And by also adding the also and adding another shadow aspect or a peripheral aspect, I'm also owning my shit. And then I feel like I'm bringing more of myself. I'm more in self-disclosure and less in self-presentation. Using also sometimes can soften core beliefs, especially limiting core beliefs. For instance, I'm never confident. I'm not a confident person, right? Well, that's a very rigid core belief to have on yourself. How about adding I'm sometimes not confident. I sometimes don't feel loved, okay? The second you have the sometimes, then you're telling your unconscious mind that cannot differentiate between reality and fantasy, this is not always. Soften that up. Allow me more flexibility. Allow me to see more sparkling moments when that's not true. Another thing it does, it adds playfulness, because people are not expecting that, to say, I'm also happy for you, and I'm also so jealous. I'm saying it a little bit silly sales. I'm adding a little bit. I'm saying there's two tracks here. There's like a track and there's like a stereo sound. There's two tracks happening at the same time. There's more than one, and we can skip between the other. And he or she can choose to, do you want to relate to that? I'm happy for you or I'm jealous for you? So we have some playfulness. We have some space. I'm not taking myself too seriously, which means you can also allow yourself to not take yourself too seriously. And we can play, we can dance. We have some space to co-create, to give and take. There's just more space in the relationship. And the last thing, it invites your partner to co-create. Because if I am sharing a few different things I'm feeling, then you're also welcome to share a few more different things that you're feeling. And then it's easier for us to say yes and, to accept and build on each other's offers. So in general, this sometimes allows us to bring more parts of ourselves, also owning our shit, also bringing our shadow, invites the other to bring more parts of themselves, and then I can feel more congruent, more full in this moment. And it gives me space to grow, me to express different shades of myself, even within the same conversation. So can my partner, and if I'm bringing new stuff and he or she's bringing new stuff, we're giving and taking. There's mutual recognition, and we're slowly creating this synergistic third. This is what vital interactions are, vital, exciting, curious, creative, imaginative interactions, which is basically what we want in life. We want to have interesting conversations with people. We want to be excited. I'm thinking as a therapist every single day, right? I meet people and I hope that the sessions are always going to be new. Psychotherapy research says you want interactions to be fun and new and growth and healing. Make sure there's mutual recognition. Make sure you are flexible. Make sure you have a collaborative tendency. In fact, one of the things I've discovered in my research is that improvisational skills, when we teach therapists improvisational skills, they increase in their flexibility, they increase in their therapeutic presence. So they become more and more open, more and more collaborative. So I want to give a few examples and then some practical tips. One example is really from today. I'm seeing this woman and she really wants to change. And she keeps saying, I only want to change. I have no benefits from this reality. She's single and she wants to enter a relationship after many years. And I kept saying to her, add the word also. And she says, why? Because I'm saying, because it's clear that her mind wants to, but her heart and her body are really resisting this change. She doesn't really do the homework in the therapy. She never really wants to set another meeting. She's kind of delaying the continuation of this therapy. There's a part of her that doesn't want, and I keep saying to her, you have to own that part. Say that you also want to change, because the second you're validating that other part of you, that shadow part of you that's scared, that doesn't really want to change, that's scared of going back into intimacy, suddenly that part will have validation and won't be acting out. I'll be recognizing there's a part of me that's scared. I can bring it to the light. I can see what my secondary gains are from being single. Okay, and then I can have a more mature, a more flexible conversation about that. And it was really, really hard for her. It took about an hour. We did 90-minute session. After an hour, she could say, yeah, I also want that. And the second she opened that up, there was like a relief. She could finally connect to her self-disclosure. She doesn't have to pretend like she just wants everything. She just wants to change whatever I say she's going to do, because that's not true. That's not reality. In another case, a couple I was working with for a long time ago, she said, he never encourages me to do anything, to go out and find a job, right? This housewife, he never encourages me. And after a while, I said, really? Why don't you check that sometimes? check that. Maybe you want to add sometimes, because just last week you were describing to me the situation where he said, go to the bank and get the password for the bank so you have some power over our financial reality. And the second she added the sometimes, she thought about that, and then she said, yeah, so sometimes it doesn't. And second she did sometimes, and suddenly her husband went, oh, she's not just attacking me. She's not just, pigeonholing me into the negative husband that doesn't celebrate his wife. So this sometimes kind of opened up this potential state where both of them can kind of fumble into a new interaction. But for that, she needed to dare to drop the label of always and add the word sometimes. And I want to give another example from my personal life. I have a good friend, and we love talking and we love to consult with each other. And from time to time, I kind of see his shadow. He's telling me something, and instead of just saying, wow, it's amazing, I'll sometimes say, wait, that wasn't cool what you just did there. Or I'll say, you did a little bit of a manipulation there to that person. And every time I say that, he's like, wow, thank you so much. But it's clear to me that he's not just enjoying this. Like nobody wants to see their shadow. Sometimes I want to, but most of the times I don't. And sometimes after a few minutes, I'll catch myself and I'm saying, I'm sorry, let's keep going. He says, no, I love it, bring it more. I always want you to see my shadow. And then I said to him, I think you also want me to see your shadows. Sometimes you just want me to be your friend and support you. Because it's fine, because if you said that you always want it, but it's not true, we both feel that it's not true. I can sense it because I know I don't want always people to see my shadow. And by just allowing that let him be a little more human, so he doesn't have to be Mr. Open and Mr. Open to feedback all the time, because no one is. And suddenly there's just like this relaxation between us. There's like, we're both humans. We're not always in a learning curve. Sometimes we just want to be loved. So those are a few examples of using also and sometimes. And now I want to give some practical tips. So first of all, choose one relationship that you want to increase the collaborative tendency of, that you want to increase the co-creation, the synergistic. You want to create some thirdnesses, whether it's a professional or personal context. And then to yourself, before you're saying your big statements like, I always want you to be happy, or I have no idea what to do, or whatever, I'm lost. I want to say one more thing. Like a lot of times at the end of sessions, I'll ask clients, so how you're feeling? Like, I'm confused. And then I'll say, okay, and what else are you feeling? And next to that feeling, what are you also feeling? I'm going to invite them to open up their mind and allow a few more self-states, or in NLP we call these internal parts, or in psychodrama we also call these internal parts, right? What other parts, except for being flooded, I'm also feeling what? Excited, amused, hopeful. So first of all, for yourself, add some also and sometimes to what you were going to say, and just see how that feels. It's going to feel strange in the beginning because you're not used to talking like that. But practice that. And once you say that, dare to say that out loud to that person in whatever context it's relevant. You can say also, I'm also feeling this. And then also, the second you say also, kind of put yourself in trouble in the sense of, and then complete that sentence. So I'm also happy for you. And I'm also feeling, and take a few seconds. And I'm also wondering, will this change the dynamic between us? Okay? I'm also happy you published your book. And I'm also feeling pressure like I should be writing mine. Okay, so you're also kind of broadcasting live. You're self-disclosing and you're showing another part of yourself. Obviously, choose a relationship that you feel comfortable enough to try that out. Then leave space to be changed, to accept everything. So after you opened up these 2 or 3 feelings or self-states that you have, kind of open up and see where the other's going with this. See what he or she are reacting to. Maybe they want to ask you a question about that. Maybe they want to say, "Well, that's surprising," or maybe they want to say, "Whoa, that's really honest." People are not used to people saying, I'm also and also. They're used to saying one thing. And just see how that kind of opens it up, and see if that allows more space for interaction. Also for yourself, so you can be softer with yourself. The second I'm also happy for you and I'm also jealous, I can choose to talk about this more. I can combine this. I can jump between the happiness and the jealousy. I can talk about us being friends and also kind of, I don't know, rivals. Not rivals, but friendly rivals. I can talk about the different dimensions of our relationship. And it's not an either or, it's a yes and. And just allow yourself to see how that opens up the field, the intersubjective field, and how once again you can feel more and more free to bring more shades of yourself. Because I find myself telling this more and more to people in my daily life, in my professional life. Find places, create spaces where you can bring your shadow as part of the conversation, You can bring the different parts of you, not only the neurotic, regulated, mature parts, but you can bring all the different parts of you. And that is freedom. That is like walking in your pajamas all day, but in your conversational pajamas. That means all day I can be myself. Imagine a reality like that. And if people would meet me in a professional context, in a personal context, would recognize the same person. Not obviously every single thing about my life, but the energy. I'd have this freedom. I'd have this freedom. So I hope this was also interesting for you, and maybe also challenging for you, also stretching for you, or also kind of scares you a little bit. I hope you're feeling a lot of different things. Because sometimes it's good to have different feelings. And at the end of the day, feelings are what differentiate us from just being a table or a chair. And if we're already born in this carnation as a human, we might as well feel those feelings and feel alive with all the different parts of ourselves. Because life is too short. So my name is Dr. Assael Romanelli, and this was The Potential State. I'll see you next time.